It's the new year. We're a few days into the new year, and with that, we will have some stuff. Again, this month, between now and the end of February, really is going to be kind of the finishing bow. We'll go over a lot more stuff because there is some other stuff coming later on this week. Coming up hilariously on Tuesday, tomorrow, when this video goes live, will be the final captain stuff, and there's some other stuff going. So we'll recap what's left and then talk about some stuff that I think that I at least want to see happen in 26. But again, we're a little bit further away, but ultimately there'll be some stuff still there. But for today, let's sort of look towards the future, dealing with what we can do now in the little bit time we have left to make sure you're ready for 2026. So here we are within the game, and we're going to start off by saying this is a new year. Content here is going to be a little bit different. We're probably going to be a little bit more tight-knit, but once things kind of go, I suppose, we'll have something different. Like I said, we're going to switch up the content once 26 comes out, but as of now, it's kind of beyond. I'm not really playing a bunch anymore. I'm playing franchise more right now. That's what I'm doing. Maybe we'll do a franchise or something. I don't know. I'm also doing a little bit of Road to the Show. That's either here or there. So this is sort of what's left. What's going on here. So this is, like I said, this is kind of like our bow here about the next month. The drop 6 for Blizzard, final weekend classic, final Blizzard, the now and later program, which is one I suggest everyone do, and the final weekend classic about the next 30-ish or so days. Now, ultimately, that program is big because it gives you a good amount of packs, which especially early on I think are huge. And the last year I think this year there was that Willie Mays you got, so there's reason to at least do it. Now, ultimately, looking kind of what's there, what else do I suggest you do? Well, here's the biggest thing. If you are kind of like looking and seeing like, well, we got some time, what's there left to do? Honestly, the best thing to do here, and I might even play a little bit just to sort of get on this, is trying to get all these now and later packs so you have them before it comes out. So really, I think finishing this might be a good way to go about it. Do some player exchanges. I wouldn't necessarily do vouchers, but too, like, getting these guys would be big. And again, these guys are slowly dropping. I'm wondering where the line is for where people are kind of stopping, where it's like they're cheap. How far are we getting? Are they getting to here? So, well, I mean, the sell now, if you're patient, it's kind of plummeted. So it looks like around the 8th inning or so is where we kind of stopped. So if you're missing guys, this might be your opportunity. You get it. I always keep an eye on that stuff because I know some people are a little behind. But that's really the biggest thing, is get as many packs you can to help yourself next year, because if this trend continues, and this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in depth here shortly, talking about mainly the video today is mainly going to be like, hey, make sure you get your now and later stuff and things that I think need to change. And one of the things that I think we can kind of this to me speaks volumes. He's still damn near 200K. Which speaks volumes to me, and I think the rarity disparity is something we've talked about. I've said before. I would say at this point, this is kind of an issue. If we're still kind of in this realm of like, he's still a shit ton of stubs in January of 26. This means one of two things. Either no one's really playing, or people are still not getting him. Which both are kind of a problem. And I don't know how to fix this very weird issue. Ultimately, the funny part is, and I said this for a while last year, and I kind of stand by it, Judge and Ohtani cards, especially Judge, early on, outpace most flashback cards that we get. He is that power, that contact early on, disgusting. Right now, he's a 97. That's wild. That's insane. Ohtani's a 95. Mind you, Juan Soto's like, you see what you see the point here. That in itself is weird. I don't know how they fix it. I think readjusting rates is always helpful. The biggest thing is, I think when it comes to the packaging and setting of this stuff, I clearly, mind you, I've said this before. If you play the pack opening game like a gacha game, you can kind of maneuver your stuff to a certain degree, so it works a little bit better for your advantage. However, the problem is that some people still don't grasp that idea. And what is the idea? Well, the idea is you don't necessarily waste your time on pulls. It's like a gotcha. They're going to want you to keep pulling. So ultimately, it's more of you kind of take what you can get. You can play the markets if you want to. I generally don't play the markets too much. I follow a couple pages that really play the markets. I don't subscribe to it, mainly because I think the risk reward's a little bit difficult. But if I have a ton of one card and it kind of skyrockets, of course we're going to flip it. But ultimately, you understand the point here. I don't know how to really correct this issue. I don't think they really want to correct the issue, because realistically, funny enough, what it comes down to is it really comes down to what this card is that I think dictates what everything else is going to be. Because Paul O'Neill is a 90, it's got to be a higher end card, because that's one of the higher overall cards you're going to get from collections. For instance, the Angels were in the same position for years. Now it's an 88, still pretty damn high. Houston's was an 86. The Dodgers, I think, also was a 90. So, I mean, you're 92. He was the highest. So, realistically, this is kind of where I think you're going to have to just sort of look at and take into consideration that the more diamonds these cards have, the better their flashback's going to be. Now, granted, there is a point where it doesn't matter. But again, 83 to a 92, right? Like 88 Steve Finley. You see what I'm getting at here? Is you're kind of running yourself into other issues. Now, granted, the live series is one thing. What I want to talk about for the rest of our time is this right here. I do not want to see this ever again. Every damn thing having its own collection drove me absolutely unequivocally insane. And you might be saying, well, why did it do that? Here's why. I'm going to use Standout as my example. Standout ended at 96s. How much is this Evan Phillips going for that no one uses? 93,000 stubs. They ended this at 96. To collect them all, you need all the cards. I Am the Scene 3, a Chase Jorge Posada. I think this was a World Series card. I can get him whenever. It's nothing. He's 14, but he's 96. For 3 cards. I'm just going to leave this here. I understand what SDS is doing is they like to cycle these sort of things out for whatever reasons. But the problem I have is when you stop it arbitrarily, it artificially inflates cards to levels where they shouldn't be. People are now just pulling Evan Phillips and collecting him. He is dead to rights. He is the game at GameStop that they don't sell you anymore. Okay? That, there too. Tops now. Whatever. If you want to collect all these, hey, by all means, they can do that better too. But again, that's neither here nor there. It's cards like that where it's like they stop. The award stuff I could kind of care less about, because this is artificially going to sort of settle itself anyway. For the most part, like, dude, 1,200 for a 99 Tatis. You understand my point here? Cheap. Well, he kind of went up. That's weird. Well, still, now is a little cheap. I'm going to cough real quick. Moogie. Cheap. You understand what I'm getting from here? Some of these cards will solve their own problems because there's still plenty of them out there. Like, you can get these 2 guys from a thing. I think he was a reward as well. Dibble's cheap. You see what I'm getting at here? That sometimes these things settle themselves, but other times they don't because there's nothing there. All-Star is kind of in the same position. He's cheap. He's not going to be cheap. Well, he's kind of cheap for some of these. Like, if you're sort of looking, some of them are still very much artificially, weirdly high. Are you going to pay a 3, 40, 34K for that to lock in. Chase Utley, 31, same thing. Like, for all of them, you feel me at this point? And the bit of it is this can be fixed. They can just add more to the collection. Just be like, hey, here you go. Here's an all-star program, flashback all-star program. Here's a handful of cards for free. Who gives a shit? They don't do that. These micro collections just, I think, murder it. I mean, like second half heroes, for instance. Another prime example. You need 20. I need 3 cards. 3 cards right here. Look, that he's cheap. He's not cheap. And Trey Turner, also not really cheap. You see the point here? Maybe we need to just fix this. Again, this stuff I think's fucking worthless. Here's the logic for me on this. Before everyone says, well, you don't grind enough, which is true. I kind of gave up on this summer program because I thought it was kind of lame. I could argumentatively get them all for free. But the problem is we need 5 cards. 1, 2, 5. I need all of them. I need all of what's left. Oh, no, I don't. I need 4 because I have Willie. I didn't lock Willie in. So argumentatively, I could just get the free ones. The free 4. These guys right here. But these motherfuckers cost a pretty fucking penny. You see my point. The game's going to get you one way or the other. It's going to get you by a time or get you via stubs. It's going to get you. The question ends up being, where do you want to put your time in? Now, ultimately, my thought process is, I don't think people enjoy Diamond Quest the way certain people enjoy Diamond Quest. I think that was a sort of a killer because Diamond Quest, at the end of the day, I know when it comes to people saying like, oh, roguelike mode. When it comes to things like Diamond Quest, I think the issue mainly with it is risk reward, and when the reward sometimes is an hour and one mishap, you lose all your stuff. I think for the most part, when it comes to traditional roguelites, that's not necessarily a problem. Because most roguelike runs, for the most part, you're maybe 10 minutes, depending on what you are. Hades, for instance, depending on how long it was, the average run, let's say, is 10 minutes. You don't really lose everything until the very end here. And I think that's something that people who are kind of moderate towards the middle of the game will not understand. And I think these numbers sort of play it out. For the most part. Now, again, am I missing stuff that I shouldn't be? Yeah, Neon and All-Star. I didn't finish it. Who fucking who? I've kind of reached the weird point where some things I just don't think I'm not worried too much about. And on top of it, I think Team Infinity, mild at hand here. I think when it came to Team Infinity this year, and this might be me being old, or maybe I'm spoiled. I think it might be a spoiled thing. I think ultimately when it comes to Team Affinity, I think going in terms of division is better than team in one aspect, because it doesn't divide everything into weird subsects of subsects. Like, ultimately speaking, and I understand kind of the rationale here for this. I guess I should state this. I don't necessarily mind a longer separate collective like this that you get passively. However, my problem sort of comes in with these other two things that are above it. The Neon and the Color Rush. Because the problem for me here is, I don't mind this, like I said, I don't mind this necessarily being passive, but doing this shit 30 times, I think gets old. Whereas, I'd much rather this be a passive thing than like the thing you have to work for. And I know a lot of times people sort of, I understand. But it's one of those bits where I'm like, when everything's cohesive, it feels better. And that's something that I think we don't do enough of in video games a lot of times, is we don't Or when we do centralized stuff, we instantly go, well, we like it the old way. I kind of wish there was maybe a mixing of the two, where it's like, if you're going to put the way to get the cards that most people are going to want, All-Star, Finest, etc., in there, then make it for the one thing, so then you're not having to actively play it 30 fucking times. If you're doing the separate Mind Journey, and in there you get, hey, here's a starter card that's a gold that you can use to help you along the way. I think doing 30 moments for 30 cards, I think that's fine. That's not really a problem. I think the problem comes down to when you have to separate it collectively, and instead of it doing it 12 times, you're doing it 30. It's just a quality of life thing. If they want to have like, hey, here's my journey for all the separate stuff you can get, but the bigger things that we know you're going to want, we're just going to do it by division, and you can pick each card along the way. Because then you're just snowballing yourself into snowballing. You're not actively going, snowball, stop, snowball, stop, snowball, stop, right? I don't think that's a problem. I'm sure people will be like, well, that's not how it works. But if we're collectively just being like NL East, and what was it? I know you're like 50K. I don't make it fucking 100 or 200K or whatever. It's the same pace. It's just you get a card at 50, 100, 150, 200, whatever. Clearly, this doesn't it doesn't take that long, but I think collectively just being able to passively do things and just being like, hey, knock it out in a week is fine. Truthfully, between like I said, the biggest things I have for 26 in terms of like this section is quality of life stuff. I'm not gonna harp on most things like about this. I understand what the game's sort of collectively trying to do. It's trying to get you in every day and play a little bit every day. I don't know how people are going to want to do that or react to that, but that's what they're trying to do. Is they're doing what every other game similar to this does. Is they want your time, and hilariously, MLB The Show is a top selling sports game. It always will be because of microtransactions. So clearly, people are FOMOing at least in some fashion. Now, realistically, I will even say this was probably the least amount of time I think I played in the show since I played it. I played other stuff. I beat other games along the way, and ultimately, too, I think that speaks to how this game was. I don't think there was really a time where it collectively grabbed my attention for more than a weekend. It never had that pull on me, apart from probably launch week, that I would say where it was like, ooh, let's do that. Some of the programs I could knock out in a day, which I'm not against. But I don't know, for someone who... I've always sort of had this thing of like, how much can you get done in 2 hours? I don't think collectively Team Affinity and some of these programs give you the 2 hours. I think most of them you have to do more than that. And when you're in a sphere now where, I know for the most part a lot of AAA games weren't necessarily stellar, but if you're somebody playing something else, I'm just throwing this out there. If you're someone who's excited for a game that's coming out relatively soon, or you play something else, what do you put your time to? The new game that you were waiting for, that you got, a classic game you love, or 2 hours in MLB The Show? And I think that's something that you're going to have to see. That I wonder how many people are going to look at it next year. If it kind of continues, well, hey, I'm not going to do it. Because at least hilariously, with sets and seasons, as bad as it collectively was, I think ultimately what it actually did was give people at least a chance to sort of recapture some magic in it. Then again, it kind of sucked because you had this weird sort of woo of cards. They could fix it. I think honestly it would have been fun if they I've said this for a while, 2 halves. First half you get to 99s, we reset post All-Star break and run it back again. Because then All-Star cards can be 99s and Finest cards can be 99s. I've always been a proponent of that if we're going to do that, not a quarterly thing, but I digress. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is just sort of me spitting stuff out. And when it comes to sort of like a wish list, which we'll do later, this is going to be one of the big ones, is like going back to quality of life. Not having programs within programs within programs. If we do that, I'd much rather it be a bigger thing that feeds into a single thing that's a little bit quicker pace to get to. Or you hit you sort of just stop. You hit the wall, you hit the artificial wall and stop. And it's like, oh, come back then. And you refresh it. I don't think a constant stopping and starting is good. I much prefer passive, and then short sprints. But again, I think doing East, Central, West is better than the rest of it. I think 6 programs outdo 30 programs. Just throwing that out there. You can like it or hate it. That's just my 20 cents. Now, ultimately, again, I don't know necessarily what's going on in terms of like some news. We haven't gotten a whole lot yet. I will say this though, it does feel like we're gonna get it more towards World Baseball Classic time than later, at least based on like the endings. Or maybe we're wrong. I'm not gonna guess sort of things, but I think end of this month, going into next month, you're probably gonna have some stuff. The one thing I'm going to throw out there as a crazy theory is take note. I have to pull it back up, but take note of the final World Baseball Classic or final Weekend Classic being around the 6th. I'm going to circle that date only because if they announce the cover early, it would make sense because then that card could be used in a highly competitive thing. And generally that card is given out for free. That would be, I think, a little bit earlier than most things. I'll have to double check it, but I don't think it's usually middle of February, late February. But I think we need to keep that in mind. But again, that's neither here nor there. So this is just me kind of just throwing shit at the wall. I'll have a more concise, cohesive list here probably in the next couple of weeks. But I'll see you back here tomorrow where we talk about the cabs and stuff. It'll be a short 5-minute thing. But I just wanted to talk about this stuff. And again, we'll sort of see how things go. That being said, my name is Specs. Leave a like if you liked it, dislike it, I'll see you guys all in the next one.